Back to Autism Live and to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. As I mentioned earlier, Miss Nancy is not with us today. She's going to be joining us in a few weeks. But I'm keeping the train going here. We've got a great show for you here this morning. In just a few minutes, we're going to have our special guest who's going to be with us, Paul Vijal. Hope I'm saying his name right. He is the head of product development at Awake Labs, and they have a new product that's called the Reveal. It's a wristband that can tell what the physiological changes are in an individual and monitor their anxiety in a real time so that parents and caregivers can begin to predict when meltdowns are about to happen. So if we can predict them, we can head them off at the pass. So that's a really cool thing. So he's going to be with us, and then a little later in the program, Skype willing, because we've been having sound issues, we will have with us Vince Redmond, who's a licensed marriage and family therapist, and he's going to be talking with us about the role that a licensed marriage and family therapist can play in a family's journey through autism. I think that's a pretty special thing to do. But first, it is time for In the News. We've got some pretty exciting news. Our first story comes to us from Science Daily. It is about a new study that is coming from the University of Southern California. It's about brain mapping, and it says a new brain map could enable novel therapies for autism and Huntington's disease. The USC scientists have mapped an uncharted portion of the mouse brain. So this isn't a mouse, but it's beginning to explain which circuit disruptions might occur in disorders such as Huntington's disease and autism. The scientists injected fluorescent molecules into 150 mice, and then they watched the cell pathways to see where they went. This is considered absolutely revolutionary. One of the lead researchers, Hong Lee Dong, who is an associate professor of neurology at the USC Mark and Mary Stevens Neuroimaging and Informatics Institute, said, and I quote, "This study moves researchers to the next level to help them understand how the brain circuit is disrupted. Previously, the dorsal striatum was one huge thing. It's almost like telling someone that they should come visit you in California. Where should they go? We've really narrowed it down to, I live in North Hollywood in this apartment building. That will help people in the future to really understand the pathways for diseases with specific symptoms." And again, they're already looking at this and seeing that this could play a huge role in helping individuals with Huntington's disease and with autism. We're going to look forward to hearing more about that and want to congratulate everybody at the University of Southern California for this information. Moving on, we're going to be talking a lot in the coming weeks about a couple of different hormones and what might provoke them. So there is a study in the New York Daily News today talking about the chatty gene. Is there a chatty gene that gives us the gift of gab, and could it, in fact, be something that if we enhance that gene in individuals with autism, that they would have more ability to deal with language and social language? What is it that we're talking about? It's gene OXT that gives folks the gift of gab. Clearly, I have this in force, right? I have the gift of gab. This chatty gene is responsible for producing oxytocin. We're going to be talking about oxytocin a lot today and every day. Oxytocin is known as the cuddle hormone, or the the social hormone. It's the one that makes people want to be more outgoing. It's a really important part of human bonding. We've seen studies that show that if someone is low in oxytocin, then they're not going to want to be social, and if oxytocin is given to that individual, that it makes them want to be more social. So researchers are looking at how this plays a role, and is there a way that we can boost that level of oxytocin? And on the flip side, is there potentially a way that they could make people like me less chatty? I'm just saying, I'm guilty as charged. And so that leads us to, my friends, the story of the day. We are talking today about gut issues, and does gut bacteria have something to do with autism? Well, a lot of people think that it does, and in fact, now today there is more evidence than ever that it does play a role. There's a new study that comes to us from the Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, Texas, and it was published in Cell magazine just last week. The study seems to show a clear relationship between gut flora, obesity, and social behavior, at least in mice. Recent studies have suggested that obesity in general in a mother could make their offspring more likely to have autism spectrum disorder. That's in humans, but we're seeing that it is the same in mice, that if the mother is obese, that the mice will be more likely to want to have less to do with the other mice in terms of social situations. So the Baylor study then looked at what might be causing that, and they discovered that there is something called L. reuteri. It is a probiotic that is in people's guts, in fact, and also in mice guts, that causes someone to create what? More oxytocin. So if you have somebody who is obese, they are creating less L. reuteri in their gut system. And that means that their child will have less reuteri as well. So could that be a contributing factor towards autism? Well, when they looked in the mice model and they gave the mothers the L. reuteri, they did not, even though they were obese, they did not have mice that were antisocial. When they gave it to mice, the L. reuteri, that were antisocial, if they gave it to them early enough, they saw that that mouse then regained its ability to engage in social activity. Do we see this working in a human model? At this point, nobody knows. But we know that probiotics are a great thing for us to take. And if you look and see if your probiotic has L. reuteri in it, there is no harm that can come from having that in your probiotic. No harm whatsoever, as long as you take it following the directions of your doctor and the directions of the label. So something that we all could be looking at. I will tell you that there are plenty of other studies about L. reuteri with individuals who are on the autism spectrum. And one of the things that we do know that it does is that it reduces pain in children who are having gastrointestinal issues. So if you've got kiddos that are having that already, check your probiotic label, see if it has L. reuteri in it, and if it doesn't, you might want to consider getting one that does. And that's our story of the day. Moving on, we've got a great guest who's coming up for us in just a few minutes, Paul Fajal. He's going to be with us talking from Awake Labs, talking about something called the Reveal. I keep putting my hand around my wrist because it is a bracelet. So we're looking forward to talking to Paul. We're going to take a short break and hopefully have him on the line. Keep your fingers crossed for Skype. All right, we'll be back after these messages.
And we're here at the Autism Speaks 2016 walk.
We are. Probably about, I would say, 56, 57,000 people out there. Better and better and better. And I'm just really proud now to be a part of it.
Do you want to try calling him on the phone? Okay. I'll tell him you're going to call him on the phone. That's weird.
Hi there, this is Georgiana Junco-Kelman. I proudly serve on the Autism Speaks Southern California Board of Directors. And this is my absolute favorite day because this is where you begin to build your community. Families that have been recently diagnosed come to this day and find their people. They find resources, they find service providers, they find an organization that supports them, and they don't feel alone. So once you've been diagnosed and once you dive into this very daunting world of autism, you know there's always a place to come back to where you can have questions answered and you can be around people that get you. Autism Speaks is here to make sure that these families never feel alone. So this is such a super special day, and I am always such a proud part. So proud to be a part of it every single year.
Our twins, Justin and Jessica, were premature babies, so we always were very conscientious of their development. But I think it was probably 15 months, Justin started getting really obsessive compulsive with opening and closing doors. And Justin started tantruming a lot too.
Get out! I will!
These would be major tantrums that were just completely debilitating to the family.
Having to take them out of the house, put them in the car, drive around, just to calm them down.
I remember a breaking point and just thinking, you know what, we got to do something. This is not right. Once we were on the track to getting a diagnosis for autism, we started sharing that with our close friends and family. It just so happens that somebody from our older daughter's private school called us out of the blue. She introduced herself and she says, I know that recovery is possible. Those words so early in our journey were a guiding force for us. As we got more educated in knowing what is effective therapies for kids with autism, we realized quality ABA is vital to that progress. That's where we decided that CARD was the right provider for us and for our son. Justin responded very well to therapy. The behaviors were tracked, and we saw that what was being instituted was working.
Justin, what are you doing? You are coloring. Good for you.
There was real progress, and it was progress that was tangible.
I just remember when he made a sentence, he said a sentence. We were just happy about it, going, no way, I can't believe you just did that.
What's the date?
The 18th.
18th of what month?
December
Oh, what year is it?
2007.
Oh, okay, so how old are you today then?
Got a
and I just started Friday Night Lights. This is our third game of the season, and it's pretty fun. You have to be fast.
We attribute so much of Justin's recovery to CARD. Their goal was the same as our goal. We wanted Justin recovered. June 12, 2008 is a day that I celebrate every year because that is the day that Justin was deemed recovered from autism. And Dr. Doreen Grandpichet met with us, looked at him and just said, he's brilliant. You need to keep his mind stimulated because he's very smart and he has no residual traits of autism.
that has a new product that's coming out that's called Reveal. And as we were saying earlier in the show, it is an innovative tool that I think is amazing for autism parents. So first of all, we have to thank Paul for being a sport and being willing to be with us on the phone, as our Skype is not currently being cooperative. And we're going to schedule a time to have Paul come back when we can see him as well. But Paul, thank you so much for being flexible and for being with us. And thank you for being... Thank you for working on this amazing product. I was explaining to the folks at home that this is a wristband, correct?
Yeah, so, it's a wearable band. We've been talking to families, and at first we thought maybe you could potentially go around the ankle, but a lot of feedback that we've been getting is saying a wrist is a preferable location for this. So that's where we're designing around it now.
And what is it that's so unique about what Reveal can do that autism parents are going to go gazanga over?
Good question. There's a number of different things that make this a pretty cool product. But first, the fact that the wearable itself is designed specifically with autism in mind. We've spoken and continue to engage with our community here in Vancouver and around the area, and to get feedback from parents and from individuals with autism to help us design the wearable so it can be usable for them. So we're addressing hypersensitivity issues, making sure it's very comfortable, that it's flexible, that it's durable, anything from shock-proof to chew-proof to waterproof. So that's just on the wearable side of things. But the application where all this information is being sent to is going to be interactive and give the opportunity to parents and caregivers right now and down the road to autistic individuals themselves to plug in all the information about kind of additional context to what's going on. So
what does it do?
What does it do? It measures 3 physiological signals of anxiety. So heart rate, skin temperature, and electrodermal activity. All that is sent over to a parent or caregiver's smartphone, and then you have the opportunity to add more information to that. So, for example, the location, or what was the activity that was going on at the time, or what behavior was observed, and then all that is crunched together, and it gives a more personalized profile of anxiety that takes into account all this different type of information.
And to me, this is so exciting, the idea of, first of all, when we're with our children, we can be out someplace, say at the grocery store with our child, and we're attending to so many different things. Like we're looking at the label of, whether this is the can of corn that we want to buy or not, and we're also attending to our children. And sometimes we miss subtle clues, and we find ourselves at the check stand with a child who is completely losing it at that point. And a lot of times we as autism parents think, okay, well, it just happened at the check stand. And maybe sometimes it does, but a lot of times it starts 30 minutes before. And if we could have something that kind of poked us in the back and said, hey, by the way, your child's level of being able to cope is diminishing as we speak, we could change our behavior and do something differently. And that's kind of what you're putting on our smartphone for us, right?
You nailed it. That's exactly what we're doing.
I'm an autism mom, Paul. I know how this can work.
Yeah, but you pretty much nailed it. I mean, that's another hugely valuable way that Reveal could be used, is having that notification, that indicator that anxiety might be rising, something might be going on actually before the meltdown is about to happen, and then exactly like you said, being able to address it before the situation escalates and potentially avoid an escalated situation altogether.
But then on top of that, sometimes we talk about all the time on the show about looking at the ABCs of behavior, that there's an antecedent, there's a behavior, and there's a consequence, and how it's really tough sometimes to go back and think, okay, what happened before the behavior? What happened before they bit somebody? What happened before they had the meltdown? And we can think about it, and we can try to come up with ideas, but unless it was videotaped, it's subjective, right? But in fact, you're taking data for us, so after a meltdown happens, we can kind of go back and look and see, was there a sharp spike in something that happened, or was there something that happened 20 minutes before that very slowly increased the level of anxiety? and we can go back and have that artifact, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Paul,
You have all that information at hand and have everything, and even having the option of sharing it with other people in your care team. I mean, it's great for you as a parent to be able to see that. But if you wanted to involve a behavior consultant or a behavior interventionist or people to help you create those plans and identify those patterns, I mean, having the option to share that data with them would be up to you as well.
yeah, but I can see as an autism parent where that is like the best thing ever, to be able to share real data, because I can't tell you how many times my kid was engaged in a behavior and my therapy team would say, okay, we need you to take some data, and I would immediately think, oh no. Because, I want to be the best possible mom that I can be, but I have a lot of emotions going on while my child's having a tantrum. And, I'm not the best court reporter in this case. And so you have this push me, pull you thing of, well, I want to do the best possible job I can, but you got a lot of other stuff going on. So to be able to hand over my phone and go, here, let's all take a look at the data together, it's like having a court reporter with you. It's brilliant, Paul.
I'm very happy that you think so.
I get it. I really like it. But I'm wondering on some of the fine points of it, like if my child is at school and he's got his reveal on, how far away can I be from my child? Can I be in another city, in another town, and I'm still going to get data, or do I have to be close?
That's a good question. So the way that the signals would be communicated to a phone right now is through Bluetooth, and Bluetooth has a limited range, about 25 to 30 meters. And I don't know what the conversion of that is in feet, but
okay.
We're Canadian up here, so we use meters. However, if the information is stored on the app, then the information that's on the app would be accessible to you. Whether or not you have the real-time physiological changes that are happening in the moment, but you would have the opportunity to go back and to access the log information through the app.
Okay, so at the end of the day, he comes home from school and I can take a look and I could see which class he was in or what time period or what section of the class he was taking when he was having more anxiety.
Exactly.
Paul, this is really good.
Cool.
No, seriously, because so often our kids will come home and because language is part of their deficit and we don't have eyes on at school, we can talk about it endlessly and we can ask the other people at school to report to us and say, well, when did you feel like he was having anxiety? Or, because we might have a kid who just comes home and they show us through behavior or they, use their OG device or they use their words to say, I don't want to go to school anymore. And it might just be that it's 10 minutes of the day that's wrecking the whole thing. And if we could fix that 10 minutes, our kid would be successful at school. But who knows which 10 minutes it is. So you can help us to figure out which 10 minutes it is or if they're in anxiety the entire day. Paul, this is truly, truly brilliant.
Thank you.
I love what you're doing. But the fact of the matter is that I can't rush out and buy it today. This is a product that's being developed and you guys have an Indiegogo that's going right now that we can all participate in.
Absolutely.
And how do we do that?
You're right. First, okay. So like you said, their Indiegogo campaign is running right now, and what that means is that you can actually pre-order Reveal. So what that means is you pay now, and there's at a discounted price, and there's a few tiers of pricing. If you check out the website, which is igg.me/@/reveal-cares. So all the information is up on that website, and essentially what it means is that you can pre-order and you can become a part of the community of the supporters of the backers. We welcome feedback and opinions and comments from everybody, whether or not you choose to back it. And then once the device is ready, which we are aiming for a first version to be released in May of 2017, then you are on that list and you're one of the first people to receive that version, and then you can help us develop it further, tell us what's good, what's bad about it, and help us improve. So you really become a part of that whole creation process.
And that's part part and parcel of, and I love that about an Indiegogo campaign, that you're in on the ground floor, you're going to be the first people to get it, and you also get a say in the shaping of how it is. But that's also, let's be honest, why it's going to be less expensive for you, because you're buying into it now and you're going to be a part of the process. So I absolutely love that. Again, we want to tell people to go to igg.me/@reveal cares, REVEALCARES. And that's where you're going to be able to find more information, and it will link you to the Indiegogo. And Paul, we're excited to have you back on when we can actually see the bracelet. If you guys go onto the website, you'll see it. It looks cool, which I have to say is important, because our kids.
No, that's true. We've gotten a lot of feedback from parents as well, with the same comments.
Yeah.
That it has to look cool. It has to be something that everybody would want to wear. So.
Yeah, our kids get picked on for enough other things. When we can give them things that raise their status, muy bueno, right? When we give them things that look clunky and out of step, we're just hampering them. But you guys have been very mindful about giving them something that looks super cool, super sleek, super technology, high tech, and everybody responds to that, let's face it. So we, definitely check out the pictures of it, and we promise that we will have you back on, Paul, so that we can see you wearing it, and so on and so forth. But we want to thank everybody who's working on this. I think it is a super duper idea. I love the interface with people's smartphones. I even, as a former teacher, am wondering if at some point a parent can transfer, and also have it during certain times of the day, transfer to a teacher's smartphone, so that the teacher could be monitoring it too, and know when the child their anxiety is starting to raise. So that's my 2 cents.
Right, yeah, and good point. And we are, so part of the system will, you'd be able to share that information, share the app with other people within your care team. Excuse me. So that if that involves an education assistant at school to have access to the app while they're working with your child, then that's something that we're building on right now.
Super duper cool. Paul, thank you so much for what you're doing and for being with us this morning and be willing to be with us on the phone.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Give our best to everybody there.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Wonderful, wonderful new product. Interacts with your child, with your phone, gives you more clues into what's happening with your kiddo. Super fabulous. And then we have the ability, with that knowledge, to change our behavior, because we know that's a part of this, right? If we change our behavior, it has big effects on what happens with our kiddos, with their progress, with how much they enjoy their life, how much they enjoy the world. Who doesn't want that? So congratulations to Awake Labs. Again, that's igg.me/@REVEALCARES. It spells Reveal Cares. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we are going to be back probably on the phone with Vince Redmond. Stick with us. More Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy after these messages.
What would you do if your child was hurting?
If your family's future was uncertain?
If help seemed out of reach?
Have you been given no hope?
TACA means I am not alone in this.
This is the reality for families affected by autism. And today, the number of children with autism is growing more rapidly than ever. TACA unites these families and ensures that they do not have to fight this battle alone.
Our oldest son, Jared, who has autism, when we first took him to the doctor to get the diagnosis, it's so sad because they offer you nothing. There's no help. There's no hope.
One of the things that you learn with autism is being very grateful for even the small milestones. When you first get the diagnosis, you go through all the range of emotions. This can't be happening. Why is this happening? You have to get to a point where it's the emotion that has to be leading is, what can I do? The first thing that struck me was walking to a room and seeing, oh my gosh, we're not alone. And there is this very strong community that's already set. And something I still today associate with TACA the most is hope. To me, that's what TACA means. TACA means hope.
It's like you've got all these dreams and goals of what your son's going to do, and you get your diagnosis and you're sent home. And that's it. There's no plan of action. There's no, here's autism, here's what we're going to do to make your life better and help him. It's strictly go home and try to process it and go on the internet. It was devastating, and you just, you know, you go through this 3 week of depression, and then you snap out of it. You have to. And then you start making phone calls and trying to figure out what is autism and what are we going to do. And then we found Taka, and it was life-changing.
Autism, there really is no definitive answer. It is trying to find the resources that are out there that can assist you to help your child so that, you know, you just don't feel so helpless at those particular moments.
There was direction, and there was hope, and there was a little ray of sunshine that he's going to be okay and we're going to be okay. I always look back and think we would never be where we are. Carson wouldn't be where he is at without Taka.
So 13 years ago, my son was diagnosed with autism, and that put our whole family into a tailspin. There were so many different ideas and things that were not proven. Nobody knew what guidance to give us. We had no direction. And then we found Taka. They helped give us a path to follow, help give our son a better future and make him healthy and put him back onto the road of recovery. When your son's first diagnosed, the first thing you hope for is, gosh, I just want my son to speak. I just want to be able to communicate with him in some way. Then you want a little more. You want him to go to a regular school. Then you want him to potentially have a real life and go to college. So you're always hoping for the future of your child. My son is a happy, healthy, vibrant young boy that's going to turn 15 really soon. And we couldn't be more pleased, and without Taka, I don't think we'd be in the place that we are today. We believe the future is not defined for many affected by autism. There is hope and direction for these kids and their families. Taka is dedicated to providing community, support, education, and hope to families affected by autism.
At Taka?
At Taka.
At Taka,
We are families with autism helping.
Helping.
Helping families.
helping families with autism.
Hi, my name is Matt. I am 19 years old, and I was diagnosed with autism when I was 6 years old. Autism is one of the fastest growing developmental disabilities in the United States, but I am living proof that with the right treatment, hope is possible. My future is not limited. Today, I am attending Fullerton Community College, and I run for the cross-country team for fun with my friends. It makes me feel proud when I think about my progress. Chances are you know someone affected by autism. Show them they are not alone, and help others get on the road to recovery. Contribute to Talk About Curing Autism today.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. It's just Shannon today, but not just me, because I have on the phone, as I said it would probably be on the phone, Vince Redmond is with us. He is a regular, and normally you get to see Vince's shining face, but he is being flexible with us because our Skype is not working, as you know from watching the last interview. And we're working on that, but sometimes it's just not going to happen. But Vince, we didn't want to let this go. So Vince, thank you so much for being with us on the phone.
No problem. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm glad to be talking to you. And I wondered if we could talk a little bit about, because we share all the time on the show about the fact that you're a licensed marriage and family therapist. And I think that, it makes a certain amount of sense to people that it is a great thing to have access to a licensed marriage and family therapist, especially when you have a kiddo who's on the autism spectrum. But this is a relatively new kind of endeavor that having, a lot of times people go and they have behavioral therapy with their ABA therapist, and if they decide to go to an LMFT, they do that separately. I think CARD, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the first places to recognize the benefit of having both from the same place. And I think that my recollection of it is that you were the person who was instrumental in making that happen. And I just, on behalf of a whole lot of parents, I want to thank you for the work that you do and how uniquely qualified you are for this, because you are a licensed marriage and family therapist, but you are also somebody who has done ABA therapy for years. You've been an exemplary therapist and helped to train the next generation of people coming through with some of the things that you've done. You're even featured in the video Recovered. So that was a mouthful, and I am going to let you talk.
I appreciate it.
But we love you, and we think that you are so valuable to our families. But I wanted you to talk a little bit about why a licensed marriage and family therapist is a good thing for families that are dealing with autism, and what in particular an LMFT can do.
Right. Yeah, and as we all know, there's adding stressors to our life just continues to make things more complicated. And there's no bigger stressor than when anyone's child was diagnosed with autism. I've always said, and I will continue to say, autism is more of a family disorder than it is an individual disorder.
Yeah.
Because it affects everybody in the family, everyone from the nuclear family to extended family, the family of friends, right?
Amen to that.
We leave our kids, we change, we have to change, we have to do things differently, we have to communicate differently. And oftentimes when we have to do these things, we need guidance or we help that help guide us on how to do that. Now, the behavioral help side, all CARD supervisors, and I'm sure every other agency, for others that are currently watching that are with other agencies, have supervisors that are able to do that on the behavioral aspect of things. How to consecrate a behavior, how to follow through with the preference assessment, how to follow through with the digital schedule, those types of things. But what about how to communicate with your spouse? How to best cope with all your work, household, and personal stressors? How to grieve that your child has now just been diagnosed with autism? These are all different types of things that exceed the training and the capacity and experience for most PCCAs and supervisors that are out there doing applied behavioral therapy. So my conjecture was to combine the two, right? Being able to have services within not only our agency, but our community, because we are able to service the community. It's not just CARD families, it's any family that are experiencing types of anxieties or physical issues or communication, couples, family issues, so that we can find the right way to alleviate these stressors, help give them strategies on how to deal with them, help improve that part of life so that they'll have more resources, capacity, energy, and hope in being able to work with their child, to be able to work with their ABA program as well.
Yeah, I think back to the early days when Jem was diagnosed with autism, and in the very beginning, I was so overwhelmed, but there was so much to be done that's all I could think about. And then once we got started with CARD and I could see that we were going to make some progress, I didn't know how much progress, but it was the first inkling that I thought, okay, I need some mental help for me. And my husband and I need ways. We don't have other examples to point to because we didn't at the time. So we didn't even have something that we could look at. There wasn't even a show called Parenthood where we were seeing another set of parents struggle. We were kind of on our own. And I remember saying, is there something? Is there something? Is there somebody that I can go to? And I went to just a therapist that my insurance paid for, and there were benefits to that. I don't want to say that there weren't benefits to it, but I will say this, Vince, that when I was talking to her about some of the things that were going on in our home and some of the constraints that we were doing because we were doing a 40-hour in-home ABA program, this was completely outside of her experience. And so I didn't feel like she understood how I was prioritizing things. And one of her suggestions was, well, you need to do less of that. Which I was like, no, you don't get it. Like, that's not the advice that I need right now. I need somebody to tell me, strategies for my personal existence. And here's this thing that, we need to do for our son. It's the right thing to do. And to give me the best strategies to get through it so that we don't just survive, but that we can potentially thrive. So for me, knowing that you are someone who totally gets that side of it, I just think that your support is invaluable.
And that's actually a growth and that's what we're trying to do. Well, this is twofold. Trying to give more experience to MFTs that are out there. It's a growing field. It's a growing level of experience, but it also is different trainings and types of continuing education that MFTs can now get. Some of it's provided by us out at different conferences and so forth. But is to get to know the autism spectrum disorder, how that impacts families, how it impacts their needs, how to manage a family when you have a child that's on the spectrum. So the field just of marriage and family therapy is evolving as well to gain more experience with that. But that involves more experience, more education with the professionals, but also, again, like any specialty, we have that ability internally with us to have that specialty of working with families that have child with special needs, because that's what we do. So the blending of the two worlds, while it's still evolving, there still is a great number of highly trained marriage and family therapists or psychologists that have no training, no experience, no education in the form of how to manage a family that has special kids. So a lot of times that's out of their wheelhouse, it's out of their ballpark, and they don't really have the insight that you guys need.
And so when we're looking for, like, if you're a card family, all you need to do is to ask for card services, family services, and it's available to them, right? Do they have to ask anybody in particular?
No, they can contact me directly or ask their supervisor, and then their supervisor will contact me directly. Okay. And then, like any other service, we'll do verification of funding and coverage, and then set it all up, and then set up either with a local marriage and family therapist, or if you're in an area that doesn't have a local therapist, we can also do telehealth in California,
right,
and in Virginia, where we're able to meet via teleconference, but it's live action, it's in real time, but it's also in the comforts of your own home.
Love that. But so if somebody's not a member of a card family, you were mentioning that our services that your services that are card family services are still available to them even if they're not a card family. So they could look at the locations tab and see if there is a card office near them where they could do that, or they could do the telehealth. But for somebody who doesn't live in those states and can't access card family services for various and sundry reasons, let's say that they're someplace else, what are the things that they want to ask an LMFT to see if it's a good fit? Do they want to ask them if they have experience with autism?
I would. I think especially I've been in practice as an MFT for over 13 years, and I think it's very understandable on the therapist point of view for a patient or a client to come in and ask questions. Right? Ask about training, ask about, philosophy, ask about, experience level working with what your needs are, because that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a professional who can help, with your needs, right? Your specific set of, dynamics and values. And to asking of that and kind of, doing maybe a little phone interview, what I would call, I think is absolutely appropriate. You can let them know, again, these are the challenges you're having, and you wanted to know what their experience level is working at. And this way you can help find a professional that you feel comfortable with and that will understand not only the stressors and anxieties that might be going through, but also understand the dynamic of how to work with an ABA program, as well as with their marriage and family recommendations.
Well, all of it is great advice, Vince, and you are such a wonderful resource for us here at Autism Live, but also for CARD and for CARD families. I hope that more families will take advantage of these services, because I've seen in our lives that if you don't take care of these things now, you're going to have to take care of them later on. And everybody's happier sooner when you have people to talk to who can help you through sometimes just having that other perspective, or to have a place where you can go and say your truths and know that you're not going to be judged is so valuable. So valuable.
Absolutely.
And that's what you bring.
Absolutely. And not only to not be judged, but to feel that you're going to be supported, to feel that this professional is going to have some insight, have some advantages, have some tools that are going to be able to help you guys. Because there's a lot of stuff going on around you, right? There's your child and the services they need, but there's a lot of other stuff. The world doesn't stop turning.
Yeah.
So we need to do everything we can to give them those supports so that they're able to manage all of it, not just part of it.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Amen to that. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but we have you back in just, I believe, 2 more weeks, Vince, back on the show. And on that show, we think that you and I are going to be talking about the fact that we think you and I are going on the road. We think we're not
sure.
We're not sure. But we think that you and I are going to New Orleans for the Autism Society of America conference. We haven't gotten absolute confirmation on that, but we think that's what's happening. It's written on a piece of paper. There are no plane tickets yet, but it's written on a piece of paper. So if you are thinking of coming to the Autism Society of America conference in New Orleans, there's a good chance that you will have the opportunity to meet myself and Vince. We'll be at the card booth. And I believe my son will be there with us as well. So it could be a really good time. But so if we're getting confirmation on that, and if that is the case, we will let you know when we have Vince back on the show in 2 weeks. And I'm hoping, Vince, that if we are there, that Nancy will be here in the studio, and you and I can be doing some Skype things from the booth back with the autism-live folks. So that could be very fun, with maybe some special guests. All right. Well, Vince, we thank you so much for every breath you take and everything that you do. I don't think you have any idea how much you help so many families. But I know, and I appreciate you. We all appreciate you. And I would implore anybody who's having issues, reach out and see if you can be a part of getting the help and support that Vince's team provides, because it's pretty spectacular. So Vince, thank you, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. But you and I will talk sooner to see if we're going to New Orleans.
Exactly.
Taking our show on the road.
Exactly. We're on the road.
On the road. All right. Thanks, Vince. Have a great weekend.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Truly one of the people that I admire so much, and who's been doing things for autism families for 20 years now, I think more than 20 years. And again, you can see, if you want to see a very young Vince, you can watch the DVD Recovered, which follows 4 individuals as they were going through their early therapy, and it shows them as teenagers. And Vince is one of the therapists working with them when they were little, when he was just a youngin', I think, before he had his babies. And then you get to see him when they were teenagers, and now, of course, you get to see Vince. It's like another 10 years later. So, in any case, there's that. Now, tomorrow, the plan for tomorrow. I think we're going to be here tomorrow. I think we're going to be doing a show. We've got an exciting guest, a mom, Blanca Dura, who has an amazing story to tell about her son first being denied his graduation with his peers, and a graduation that took place for him in its place that will fill your heart, and then some really exciting things having to do with summer and things that we can do this summer. So look for us tomorrow. If we're not here, it's because we're having technical issues, but I'm fingers crossed. We got here today. And we really want to thank Matt for pulling it out today and pulling it out yesterday so that today could happen. He's doing a wonderful job, so thank you to Matt. Hopefully we see you tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.